today we got a problem. That little brass fitting right there sealing correctly. And I doubt there's a replacement. So let's see if we can't get it off and see what we can find is wrong with it. This is just a shorty 9/16. It shouldn't take very much pressure to unscrew. Just make sure you have no pressure in your air tank. And whenever you put it back in, a lot of these already have thread sealer on them. So just tighten it up to where it's snug. Make sure that it's not still leaking, and don't over tighten it because you don't know if you can replace this plug. Here's a little double right here. All this is just a simple valve that seals up so you can drain the water out, and it allows air to go through this little passage and through this hole, which allows you to take all the condensation out of your air tank, which the majority of us do not do. There's a little O-ring right here, but I'm going to take this completely apart. Hopefully I have a O-ring that works in this. I'll throw it in the sonic cleaner and make sure there's every little part of the little valve is clean, because it's leaking my air out. Okay, now I'm going to try and take this little O-ring off without damaging it or stabbing myself. With everything going on in the world right now, finding parts is becoming more and more difficult. After a little bit of work, I was able to get the O-ring off. Now let's see if this will unscrew completely out or not. I don't believe it will, because I believe that there's a safety feature that keeps it from screwing all the way out. But I'm gonna throw some PB blaster or some kind of anti-seize in there and put it in my sonic cleaner and see if I can't get it cleaned out and find this teeny replacement O-ring, because that's where I was getting my leak from. I'm used to ones that have a little T-bar across it like that, and just screw it and unscrew it, and never had any problems with it. But this old Craftsman one I've had problems with. What I'm going to do now is make sure this is halfway in, halfway out, so hopefully I can get the penetrating oil in there fairly well. And I'm going to put penetrating oil all over this valve. I like using glass. It's more dangerous in the garage, but really work better in the sonic cleaner from my experience. As you can tell, you don't have to put much. It'll float. And I'll be back after I give it a good cleaning. Right here is one of those times when an impulse buy at the hardware store will come in handy. As you can tell, that O-ring to the left is the old one, and this is one of the new ones out of this really cheap O-ring set. How are you? And I'm not any kind of conspiracy kind of guy, but if you're going to want to have access to parts like O-rings, if they've got them at your local hardware stores, I would get a set of metric and SAE. You can, because we don't know when we're going to have this stuff again, and this could be the difference between your livelihood. Alright, I have it out of the sonic cleaner. As you can tell, it's pretty nasty. Let's see how it looks after I take it out. Here she is. I've cleaned up. New O-ring on. So I took the old one off. The big thing is to make sure it's the right size, is that it has a little bit of resistance, but it's not squishing the O-ring back out. I'm hoping this will fix it. But this is just a part on your compressor that you would never think about. Could be leaking out air. It'll cause your air compressor to run more often than it should. And more than likely, a lot of the viewers, they don't even know that they have a plug on the bottom of the air compressor. If you live out in the middle of the desert, you're probably not going to make as much condensation in your tank, but I guarantee if you've got one at the bottom of your tank and you unscrew it, you're going to get a bunch of water out, and that's just common maintenance. While I was in the Army, the mechanics kept complaining about whenever they were using their impact tools. And before I went into the Army, I was in the industrial mechanics program, and I had a good bit of experience with pneumatics, and knew that, you know, with air compressors you have to drain the water out. Hundreds of gallons of water was in that compressor, and they were able to use their tools after that, and they actually started breaking off bolts and studs because they kept getting bigger and bigger tools because the air was so bad. You need to get it checked and make sure that your air compressor is the metal's good, or there is a YouTube video where someone's compressor explodes. If anybody was near it, it would have probably have killed them. So, you know, have your air compressor checked out. As you can tell, I am at max pressure, and I always try to keep my pressures, you know, under 90 or so. When you're done working with your compressor, try and unplug them, because these will leak, and if you leave it on auto, especially if you're in your garage, it's gonna cut on and off and scare you to death in the middle of the night. And another tip I can give is the feed line that goes to the compressor. I took the spark plug insulators that they use in race cars. I took and got a couple of those, and I broke this line loose with the air out of it, obviously. And any leak that you can hear on your air compressor system is causing your compressor motor to work harder, and it's not allowing you to get up to max pressure. Some compressors, more expensive ones, you can hold the air wand open all day long, and they'll keep up. But the smaller ones aren't designed to have too many leaks, and I've had to replace this pressure gauge right here. It had a little bit of a psst, and it wasn't very loud, but I could not build pressure. And it wasn't like I had a big air wand like this blowing through it. It didn't sound like that. It just would not build pressure. And most people would have completely replaced the compressor, all because this little gauge was leaking behind it and it wasn't allowing it to make pressure. So you try and fix it, or if you don't feel comfortable fixing something like this, you know, take it somewhere and have them fix it, because now these compressors are getting really expensive. This is an old Craftsman, but you know, I would suggest getting an Ingersoll Rand. That would be my next compressor if I was to get one, and it would be a 2-stage, so I would never have to worry about losing air again. For watching, and thank you for those who have joined and subscribed to the Swamp Fox family. If you can give me a thumbs up, comment in the description, I'd really appreciate it. Please look for the links in the description. Become a Patreon member if you want to support the channel. See you guys next time.